do something this way. It doesn't mean it's the only way. And my one friend told me one time her husband always told her, well, just because you think it's that way or you do it that way doesn't mean everybody else does.
Doesn't mean it's right.
It doesn't, right. Yeah. It doesn't seem, it's not like life-changing information, but it's really easy to forget when we're in our own mind and we're caught up in our own thoughts.
Sure. And the key to me, the takeaway is that there is no one way of doing things.
Right.
When we're talking about a world with billions of people in it, there are some commonalities. You're going to find repeating patterns, but there is no one right way to say a thing. My idea of how to deal with a fight might be to, put it on pause, to step outside for a minute and calm down and come back at it with a new perspective. That other person might take that action as a slap in the face.
Yeah.
So, we both might be right, and that's not to say that everything is relative, but to some degree things are. But the sooner we recognize that there are more than one way to do things and that our expectations for other people's behavior really are our expectations for ourselves, right? And that maybe sometimes you need to let go of those a little bit and let other people be who they are, find out who they are. Ask somebody, hey, how do you like to be communicated to? Which sounds like a weird question, but really isn't. And there's more than 5 love languages. Let's be honest with ourselves. That's a nice book and it's a nice basic concept. But, everybody communicates differently. Everybody thinks differently in small ways, sometimes in large ways. And it's on us if we want to be more self-reflective or self-aware, those of us who are doing the work to do that. It's on us to go to those people and introduce those topics in a way that's not threatening, that's not challenging, that's not judgmental. And that is coming from a position of, I want to build our relationship better. I'm not telling you you're wrong. I'm not saying I'm wrong. I'm saying, let's work at this if you're open to it.
Yeah. And, you brought that up about the relationship, and just real quick, I want to share the story because this was very life-changing to me and taught me actually a better way to do things, which is also what you get if you're willing to be open to different ways of doing things. My previous relationships were always, the fighting seemed to always be knocked down, drag out, screaming kind of fights. Right. My current boyfriend was not that way. And I remember the first time we kind of had a little fight, and I remember like inhaling, getting ready to unload,
racing for impact.
Right? And he didn't do that.
Yeah.
He didn't walk away either.
Yeah.
But he was like, I'm not going to engage with you in that way.
And you're like, what?
And I was like, it like completely caught me off guard. Like I was speechless because I was like, I had always done it this way and I didn't know there was another way.
Yeah.
And I remember being floored by that and really, really thinking about, that really was a big change for me to be able to engage in conflict like that and not have it be a screaming match. So I bring that up because if you're willing to open yourself to other styles of communication, to way other people do things, you may find that you like their ways better and you're able to, use some of those things in your own life and it's better for you.
And I would follow that up by saying the purpose of engaging in a conflicts will arise of their own, but the purpose of engaging with it is not to decide who's right and who's wrong. Right. It's not even always to like get the correct information or to decide the proper path. The purpose of engaging in a conflict is to resolve that conflict to the satisfaction of all parties, if possible.
Yes.
And that isn't always going to be your way or my way or the highway. Sometimes it's going to be compromise. It's going to be like, okay, I'm going to try. I pledge to do better. And, but I this is important to me. And this is why I would like you to understand that. There's a lot of it gets messy. So never expect conflict to be like, it's super easy to go, get out. I'm leaving. That's too easy. It's too easy, and you'll end up alone and
lonely. That way is, to me, that's the easy way out because you're trying to,
it's also
you
the
don't
worst
want to
way
face
out.
it. Yeah, exactly.
Right. It's really not engaging in the conflict.
It doesn't solve anything.
Right. You're not solving anything. You're just carrying, like you said, you'll carry that same problem onto your next relationships. But the purpose of engaging in that conflict is to preserve the relationship. Let's say you had, 1,000 people on a moon colony. You can't just start throwing people out the airlock. Pretty soon, you're going to throw one too many people out of the airlock and then the whole colony is going to shut down because you don't have enough people to do the jobs that need to be done.
Right.
Our lives are the same, just in a larger scale, but also at a much smaller scale. Our friends and families are our sort of team and we need each other. And so when we have those conflicts that are inevitable, the purpose of engaging in them, it should is a big word, but should be to find a resolution that works for everybody.
Yeah.
That also helps build the relationship in a way, not an angry, ugly compromise that just like leaves splinters for pain to come out of later. Don't divide it up and leave everybody pissed off. But a compromise that gives everybody enough of what they want and a pledge to do better in the future, that you can move forward together as a group. That should be the purpose of engaging in conflict. That's where that redemption thing comes in. It's not just them you're redeeming, it's the relationship.
Yeah.
Or you're throwing it away. So there.
Yeah. And we all have a choice in this. And it's, these obviously, if you, because you will end up alone if you keep throwing every relationship out. So it's, and we all have to deal with people. So you have to learn this in one way or the other, unless you're planning to stay home the rest of your life and never.
I don't need nobody.
Right. No, absolutely not.
Yes, you do.
Right. Exactly. So yeah, and I know we could go on for a long time about this.
Of course we could. I'll come back for another show.
There you go. So my guest this week has been Alex Martin, and we've been talking about better communication. And before we close out, is there any closing thoughts, Alex, that you want to leave with the listeners on this topic of communication? Yeah,
listen more, Yeah.
I'm
saying that to myself. I talk a lot, obviously. So listen more. Don't just wait for your turn, like you mentioned. Listen. And sometimes repeat back to people what you're hearing in your own words, and ask them to do the same, just to make sure that you're clear. It's not just about, okay, I heard the words, now I'm going to go do the thing I was going to do anyway. But really listen, process, check back with people, and work toward that commonality, that understanding that makes relationships work. That's all.
Yeah. And I would add to that, almost like listen with new ears. Like, see because I know we had this, I was talking with my boyfriend last night, we were having a conversation, and I can't remember exactly. It was something like, I don't even remember what we were talking about, but I overlaid something that I thought I heard him say negative, and he didn't say it. And so it's like I was listening with negative ears. Right. So my suggestion would be to maybe soften those negative ears as much as you can, as this week, as you go forward in your interactions with people. See if you can listen with new ears in a different way that maybe you haven't done before, and see if you hear something different. Yeah.
A lot of times we go in expecting a certain thing, and so we're listening for those things only, and we're not really hearing what they're saying. Yeah. That's a good point.
Yeah. So Alex, it's been great to have you back. Can you let the listeners know how they can find out more about you?
Yeah. You can find me on, I have a YouTube channel. I'm just building on, if you look for Moonshots-AV, that's MOONSHOT-AV. .com. That's my website. You can see my YouTube videos on there. I'm starting a new series about calming down and being slower in your life and focusing on the things that are important. So about one up doing that. And that's it. You can also email me. My email's there on the site.
Okay.
If you want to talk, I'd love to. I love talking to people. So.
Okay, cool. Yeah. And I'll link to that in the show notes so everybody can find you. You've been listening to the Create What You Speak podcast, brought to you by webtalkradio.net. You can also hear the podcast on Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, and your favorite podcasting platform. I'm Sloan Fremont, and I hope you'll join me for the next episode of the Create What You Speak podcast, where we will continue to free our minds, expand our consciousness, and untangle those thoughts and patterns that keep us from living the life we desire. Check out my website, sloanfremont.com, to learn more.